Today on the deep dive, we are grappling with a really terrifying imbalance that I think defines the 21st century.
It's this idea that we've completely mastered the acceleration pedal.
Right, but we've forgotten how to even build the brakes.
Exactly. Our technical mastery, our power, is advancing at these exponential, almost godlike speeds.
We're talking about the ability to reshape life itself, our climate, computation.
But our wisdom, our capacity for control, for regulation and foresight, that's still linear. It's slow.
Often it feels like it's just stuck in neutral. The sources we synthesized for you today compiled in a strategic analysis called Power Without Control. They put it perfectly.
What's the analogy they use?
They say, we are driving a vehicle where the steering wheel is locked the moment the engine hits full speed.
That's a powerful image.
So our mission in this deep dive is to unpack that crisis. First, we'll try to understand the foundational philosophical reasons why we struggle so much to gain control.
Then we'll get into the specifics.
Yes, diving into the two domains, biotechnology and cybernetics, where this gap, this asymmetry, poses the greatest existential risk.
And finally, the big question. Why can't we fix it? Looking at the geopolitical barriers preventing us from building the protections we so obviously need.
Okay, so to understand why we're failing to manage all this power, you're saying we can't start with the tech.
You can't. You have to start with the dilemma of regulation itself. And that brings us immediately to this methodological trap known as the Collingridge dilemma.
Let's unpack that because it perfectly captures that feeling of always being too late to the party when it comes to regulating new technology.
It's a really cruel paradox, and it has two phases. In the early first, when a technology is new, when the invention is still malleable.
Cheap, easy to shape.
Exactly. At that point, it is methodologically very easy to regulate. You could pause it, redirect it, even ban it. But here's the hitch.
You can't see the danger yet.
The true dangers, the long-term societal impacts, are completely impossible to foresee at that early stage. You just can't stop something for a danger you can't even name.
So you wait. You have to wait for the harms, the negative externalities, to become clear enough that you can finally justify taking action.
Precisely. And that shifts us into the late phase. By this point, the true scale of the impact mass disinformation, social polarization, whatever it might be, is crystal clear.
But now it's too late.
It's too late.
Yeah.
The technology is so deeply entrenched, woven into our economy, into our infrastructure, that trying to control it is politically, socially, and economically impossible.
So the moment the need for control becomes undeniable is the exact moment the opportunity for control has already passed.
That's the trap.
And that structural inability to regulate, it seems to be rooted in what the sources call a foundational gap in human capability, this divergence between techne and phronesis. This is the core philosophical problem, isn't it?
It's the essential insight. Techne is our technical mastery, our ability to apply tools, to optimize systems, to build complex applications.
That's the exponential curve. Moore's law.
Right. It's why the phone in your pocket is just orders of magnitude more powerful than the supercomputers of the 1970s. We excel at techne.
And then there's phronesis, practical wisdom.
Phronesis is practical wisdom, ethical deliberation, long-term foresight. And, crucially, it is linear. It does not speed up to meet the exponential curve of techne.
The source material makes this really jarring claim. It says we are handing godlike powers, like gene editing and powerful AI,
to institutions and decision makers whose collective emotional and cognitive maturity is effectively the same as our ancestors from the Middle Ages.
Our wisdom is just failing to keep pace with our power.
Wait, but is phronesis really stagnant? I mean, surely we've improved since the Middle Ages.
Oh, we've certainly improved, but the rate of improvement is the issue. The linear improvement in our wisdom in governance and ethics is just completely overwhelmed by the exponential rate of technical power development.
So we gain a new ethical insight, once a decade?
Maybe. Meanwhile, we invent a new generation of potentially destructive technology every 18 months. The gap just keeps getting wider.
That dynamic suggests we are maybe psychologically ill-equipped to even recognize these risks. What cognitive blind spots stop us from grasping this until it's too late?
The analysis details two major psychological barriers. The first one is optimism bias.
We just inherently envision the best-case scenario.
Exactly. If you think back to the creators of the internet, they were focused on this beautiful vision of a democratized library of all human knowledge, the positive uses.
They failed to anticipate the black swan events, the widespread disinformation, algorithmic polarization, surveillance capitalism.
When we focus on the gain, and we just filter out the potential for catastrophe.
And the other one, normalcy bias, that seems even more dangerous when the underlying reality is shifting exponentially.
It's the failure to anticipate a real structural transformation. Normalcy bias makes us assume that the future will just be the past, but a little bit faster.
We don't anticipate that a new technology might fundamentally change the rules of the game, that the system itself could break.
And when you couple that with economic models that constantly incentivize speed and efficiency over resilience and redundancy.
You build systems that only reward safety after the catastrophe has already happened.
So if those are the intellectual roadblocks, let's look at the physical domains where this power gap is becoming most acute. Let's start with biology.
The source material argues that biotechnology presents this acute threat because of its rapid digitization and just how accessible it's become.
The core issue here is what they call the dual-use risk, right?
Yes, it's inherent in life science. The information you need to design a groundbreaking cure or a life-saving vaccine is often chemically, genetically identical to the knowledge you need to design a novel pathogen or a sophisticated poison.
So the engine of cure can be reversed.
Effortlessly, into an engine of chaos.
And nothing illustrated that terrifying symmetry better than the inverted drug discovery thought experiment. That knowledge genie seems like it is irreversibly out of the bottle.
Absolutely. So researchers took an AI model that was specifically designed to filter out toxicity when searching for new medicines, a safety AI.
And they flipped its instructions.
They gave it a simple instruction: maximize toxicity. In less than 6 hours, that AI model didn't just propose novel compounds, it reinvented known chemical warfare agents.
Things like VX gas.
Like VX gas, and then it proposed thousands of new, potentially deadlier compounds that had never existed before. The key here is the speed and the non-intuitive nature of the designs. The machine can propose destruction faster than we can currently assess safety.
That is genuinely unsettling. And here's where the accessibility issue gets really dangerous. The combination of AI and biology is leading to the de-skilling of terror.
That's the multiplier.
You no longer need years of specialized training, a huge budget, or a state-level lab.
Historically, creating a sophisticated bioweapon required years of tacit knowledge and high risk. Now, a large language model can act as your virtual remote PhD supervisor. It can troubleshoot complex experimental steps for amateurs.
And it gets worse.
It does. The rise of cloud labs means a bad actor doesn't even need physical equipment anymore. They just upload code, the recipe for the pathogen, and robots in a remote facility execute the physical experiment for them.
That completely decouples the person from the need for expertise or even a physical location.
It removes the physical barrier entirely, and it creates a new generation of what the sources call bioscript kiddies.
These are amateurs who can bypass years of scientific training. All they need is a well-written prompt and a credit card to access mass lethality.
The sheer number of potential bad actors just increases by orders of magnitude instantly.
Let's shift from bits affecting atoms in a vial to bits affecting atoms in our critical infrastructure. The second acute domain is cyber-physical systems.
This is where code gains physical muscle.
And the result is what we call kinetic cyber attacks.
This is the moment a digital compromise results in tangible physical destruction. We've moved past just stealing data. Now we're talking about code that can control the valves, the turbines, the machinery that runs our society.
Power grids, petrochemical plants, water treatment facilities.
The classic precedent, the one that proved this was even possible, is still Stuxnet.
Stuxnet was the wake-up call. It targeted Iranian nuclear centrifuges, digitally taking control of their operations.
And the malware commanded those centrifuges to spin to destructive supersonic speeds.
While, and this is the critical part, simultaneously feeding false, normal-looking data back to the human operators on their monitoring screens.
So the operator saw green lights, everything looked fine, right up until the machinery physically tore itself apart.
But the sources detail a really alarming escalation beyond Stuxnet with the Triton malware from 2017.
Triton was the next step towards intentional malice. I mean, Stuxnet was sabotage, Triton was weaponization. It specifically targeted the Safety Instrumented Systems, or SIS. The SIS are the automated brakes in an industrial plant. They're designed to shut down operations to prevent explosions or catastrophic failure.
And Triton's goal wasn't just to disrupt the plant.
Its goal was to actively override those built-in safety features to maximize physical damage and, potentially, physical harm. It was a deliberate attempt to weaponize the safety mechanisms against the plant itself.
And this threat is just compounded by the sheer volume of entry points, the Internet of Things. Our attack surface is exploding because of billions of cheap connected devices.
Exactly. Every single one of those billions of devices prioritizes connectivity over security. Many of them, from cheap webcams to industrial sensors, they ship with basic security or even default passwords.
Turning them into vulnerability, stepping stones into much more critical systems.
And we saw the chaotic potential of that mass vulnerability with the Mirai botnet.
Right, Mirai enslaved hundreds of thousands of these unsecured consumer devices cameras, DVRs, to launch massive distributed denial-of-service attacks.
It proved that our global internet infrastructure could be taken down not by sophisticated supercomputers, but by cheap consumer electronics. Attackers can now use tools to scan the entire globe for unsecured water pumps or factory controllers in seconds.
So we have the philosophical reasons why we can't stop, and we have the technical means to cause exponential harm. The question then becomes, why haven't we fixed this?
Why, when the risk is so clearly existential, are we still accelerating the engine faster than we're building the brakes?
It comes down to what the sources call the pacing problem, but monetized. It's a massive investment gap.
Let's follow the money here because the disparity is staggering. It seems economically irrational.
It is irrational. Private investment into developing new AI capabilities, the power exceeds $100 billion every year. That capital flows relentlessly toward speed and efficiency.
Okay, and now compare that to the budget for safety, for resilience, for purely defensive research.
The estimates suggest it's only about 1 to 2% of those development budgets. We're essentially betting global stability on a 1 or 2% safety margin.
And that low investment is indefensible when you consider that cybercrime damages alone are projected to hit $10.5 trillion annually by 2025.
We're underinvesting in the insurance policy for civilization, despite the clear and accelerating cost of chaos. But the reason this imbalance persists, that leads us to the ultimate barrier.
The geopolitical prisoner's dilemma.
This explains why no single nation can afford to step back and prioritize safety without everyone else doing it too. It's a race to the bottom.
Precisely. Every major global power knows that implementing a safety tax, requiring expensive, time-consuming safety evaluations for the next big AI model or biotech advance, is the responsible thing to do.
But they're terrified that if they slow down,
A geopolitical rival, whether it's China or Russia or some other actor, will accelerate unchecked and gain a decisive strategic and economic dominance.
and that fear dynamic forces every major actor into a race for power, sacrificing control. They are compelled to move fast, ensuring that safety is the first thing thrown overboard to win the tech competition.
You can't enforce control unless you can enforce a unified slowdown. And in a deeply competitive world, that seems politically impossible.
So, since we can't stop the engine, we have to find a way to make the rest inert. This leads to the proposed strategic fix in the sources, defensive accelerationism, or DAC.
DAC operates through a framework of differential technology development, or DTD.
Okay, what does that mean?
DTD is the logical response to the prisoner's dilemma. If you cannot halt the progress of the dangerous sword, you must aggressively accelerate the development of the shield.
So the core principle is that safety is a technological challenge, not just a regulatory one. We have to deliberately sequence our investment.
Exactly. Instead of developing the engine and the brakes at the same time and hoping they keep up, DTD argues we must pour disproportionate resources into braking technology first. Prioritize the shield before you release the sword.
So what does this global immune system look like in practice, specifically in the domains we talked about? Biology and cyber.
In biology, the goal is to make the physical environment hostile to airborne pathogens, whether they're natural or engineered.
How?
One solution highlighted is far UVC lighting. That's 222 nanometer fixtures installed in public spaces like airports and hospitals.
And these lights are safe for humans.
Safe for humans, but lethal to airborne viruses. It means that if a rogue actor releases a biological weapon, it physically cannot spread. It neutralizes the weapon on the ground.
And on the digital side, how do we move towards, say, an unhackable system?
By moving away from human-written code that needs constant patching and towards something called formal verification. This involves using AI to mathematically prove that a piece of critical software, like the controller for a nuclear plant or a national power grid, is completely free of vulnerabilities.
So you move cybersecurity from a game of finding and patching leaks,
To a state of mathematical certainty that the system is secure.
and to police the dark corners, the source says we can't arrest every bad actor, so we have to break the tool. This relies heavily on the choke point strategy.
This strategy targets the physical resources rogue actors need. For frontier AI, training the most dangerous models requires massive energy and thousands of specialized GPUs.
You control the supply chain.
Right. Embed monitoring chips in high-end GPUs to detect if a dark data center is training dangerous models. For biology, it means strict know-your-customer regulations for the entire DNA synthesis supply chain.
Verifying user identity and screening the requested DNA sequences for toxicity before the genetic material is ever printed.
And this all points to the need for a massive institutional update that just doesn't exist right now.
We need an institution with global reach and teeth.
After the atomic age, we created the IAEA, the International Atomic Energy Agency, with the authority to inspect and police nuclear research globally. The sources argue we have no equivalent IAEA for AI or IAEA for biotech with the authority to police these dark corners and enforce the choke points.
So what does this all mean for you? We can't unlearn the knowledge of destruction, and the engine of progress is only going to get faster. This deep dive shows that the ultimate race is against our own capacity for chaos.
It requires us to urgently and disproportionately prioritize wisdom, that phronesis, over pure power, that techne, by technologically funding the infrastructure of control.
And this final choice is really crucial. If we fail to secure the technology itself, if you fail to build the shields, we face this terrible high-stakes choice.
It's presented by what's called the vulnerable world hypothesis. If destructive power becomes too easy for anyone to access, the only remaining way for civilization to survive might be radical, invasive surveillance.
So we risk being forced to choose between extinction
Allowing freedom and risking that one catastrophic miss.
or dystopia.
Surviving under a panopticon that monitors every keystroke and every DNA print job to keep us safe. The entire goal of defensive accelerationism is to find the third way.
By embedding safety into reality itself.
Rendering the rogue actor impotent without sacrificing our fundamental freedom.